All right. I'm Jay Lane. I'm from Elizabeth City. Drove a long way to get here, but happy to do it. Happy to share what I've been through, what we're still going through. I was, for lack of a better term, forced into regenerative farming. When I got out of high school, I went to manage a 6,000 acre operation over in Elizabeth City. Some of my wife's family, and I grew up farming, family farming operation. Didn't work out for me, so went to manage that. No experience managing people, managing agronomy notes, maintaining equipment, nothing. So big learning experience for me. The guys working for me, the guy who owned the farm, it was we didn't have a clue what we were doing, and that is a big scale to have no clue what we were getting into. So, but we had agronomists, we had the whole, system established. I was just filling a role that a previous guy had just left. And about I guess 2 months, I managed it for a year. And a couple months after that, had some guys in the area retire and wanting to rent land to me because we had helped with custom farming on their stuff. So the first guy retired. He farmed about 800 acres. I was like, yeah, I'll rent his land and manage this deal. And then another guy retired. He had about 1,200 acres. And then another one retired and had about 1,000. So I went from managing a 6,000 acre operation to doing that, renting right at 3,400 acres. I was 21 years old, just married, and had no equipment, no resources, no collateral, just knowledge of what not to do. Nothing of what to do. But anyway, I agreed to do it. And because I've always dreamed of farming. My dad passed when I was young, and I never got a chance to farm with him, and I knew eventually I'd at least try to have kids, so I wanted to farm with them. So I needed to start somewhere, and 3,600 acres, 3,400 acres is a good place to start. So, but I took those practices that we had on that big farm, the 6,000 acre farm, and this is corn, beans. In Elizabeth City, in the Blacklands, we are just corn and soybeans. You try to grow, I was having a conversation earlier, you try to grow peanuts and the black dirt sticks to the peanuts, nobody wants them. You try to grow cotton, it's too wet, stuff doesn't germinate. Good corn land, we're blessed to have big fields, rich dirt, stays wet a lot. We have challenges, but anyway, corn, beans, heavy tillage, just full scale tillage like you've never seen. I mean, these guys are just tilling 5 times, pulling a land roller across tilled dirt, then tilling it again because it's too hard. And I'm not exaggerating. That is what I was in charge of doing. It's pretty. There's nothing prettier than jet black flat dirt and uniform corn stand on that. But me getting started, I did that, my wife and I, and went and got loans on new equipment, a lot of technology and all this stuff I thought I needed. And lost just over $300,000 at 21 years old. Again, no collateral, no nothing. I'm just being honest with you. That was my starting point. That was my baseline, was 300,000 in the hole. So I had to adjust. And luckily, I'm friends with a guy named Mitchell Hora, and started talking to him, telling him what I was going through. And he's like, well, let me get you in contact with Lance Gunderson and Russell Hedrick and all these other guys. And I was like, I'm not a hippie farmer. I'm not doing that. And but I started looking. I'm a very data-driven, very economic stability is my main driver. I had to forego the pride. Pride is the original sin. I had to forego all that. My stuff looks ugly. And I was willing to accept that to keep farming. So I implemented right off the bat, it's so dumb, I sound so stupid, but I put a cover crop on every acre I had and cut back fertility, and this was all data-driven decisions. This has never been in practice where I'm from, not even close. I mean, fall tillage, spring tillage, this was the thing that everyone did, and what I told was the only way to do, not only by neighbors, but by extension, by everyone anywhere near me. So I did it, and I recovered. I made up my I actually made money that year, even given the deficit I started with, which was awesome. We were rocking. So I'm selling tillage equipment. I thought, man, I've got this thing figured out. And the key was that yield did drag, but I was able to, my net was just amazing. So again, data-driven decision, let's expand this, look into mixes and what we can do even further with fertility work, and trying to figure that out more in depth. And I had my own data set by that point. So we were making up ground, and I was, we were growing the farm and implementing livestock because I needed more things to do and didn't have enough headaches. Stopped spraying fungicide, stopped applying seed treatment, started adding sugar. I made a ton of adjustments between year 1 and year 2, and then year 3. It was like I was an experimental farm every year. But since then, we've been rolling. The data shows it. The soil shows it. My balance sheet shows it. But again, ugly looking farming. Yields don't compare to the neighbors, and I'm all right with it. And now the neighbors are starting to come around to, it's 20-some-year-old kids making it, and we're scared to death. What in the world's going on? So I sympathize with that. I've been there. But the key thing in my area that I hope I can, okay, so this is a drone shot that I took. This was a second year farming. This land to the left is mine. It's cover cropped for a year. And if you see the way our fields are laid out, those are about 30-acre fields, and you see the lateral ditches and then the big drainage canal going that way. The field on the right's planted in wheat, never been cover crop, full tillage. And you can see there's just standing water everywhere versus what we're doing. And again, this was after 1 year of cover cropping and no tilling. That shot right there sums up my regenerative farming career, or getting started in it anyway. That's all I needed to see, because drainage is our limiting factor on yield, on respiration, on literally everything we're trying to do. This farm here is 21% organic matter, which is a lot. But the reason it's that high is because none of this stuff can break down, because, like Dan said, 9 months out of the year, it's stagnant. All this stuff's waterlocked, airlogged. Can't get anything out of it. Nothing respirates, nothing moves. So started learning from my mistakes, from data, from other guys, in the Midwest, or Russell, or any of those guys. We were looking good. Soil tests started to reflect it even further. This was the same farm. On the left, the drainage, all the drainage is surface drainage because it's like a parking lot. So all the water's rushing to the ditch. Well, the ditches can't drain fast enough. Water backs up into the field, killed my soybeans, had to replant, and it killed those two. So middle's the cover crop. First year cover crop's just rye. Just rye broadcasted, and we did not roll it down. We just chemically terminated it. And then that on the right is the same ditch line, 2022. So again, all I needed to see, that I picked up 80 acres of farmland on that farm. That farm's about 300 acres, and every ditch bank we estimated about 2 acres, acre and a half to 2 acres flooded on the ditches. So that literally took no fertilizer, no lime, no nothing, just a little bit of cover crop and patience. And I picked up 80 acres. What's the ROI on that, So then, we started implementing cattle. And again, I needed another headache. So we did that. I started to notice you could walk out in the field and feel the soil give in when you stepped in it. It was like a sponge as opposed to a parking lot, which I think is good. The cover crop mixes were more diverse, way more robust. I had a pre-grazing biomass test I always took after I figured out what the heck I was doing. And the blend on the left there, before I turned those cows out there, biomass sample came back at 247 pounds of nitrogen, 81 pounds of phosphorus, 399 pounds of potassium. Fertilizer dealers were pissed. They don't call me anymore. all I did was let them graze it off, which I'm sure sped up the process. I can't quantify that, but on ground where we didn't get grazed, I rolled it down. And let's say we planted soybeans in March, we roll that cover crop down, planted in March. By June, black dirt, everything's broken down. Biology's working, biography. Everything is just speeding up tremendously, and then the manure value is tremendous out there. I don't have a drone shot of it, but we split that farm in half, grazing on one side, non-grazed on the left, and the yield map reflects it. I'm still waiting to get yield data back, but that was this year after years of grazing that, just as a comparison. And then you have the economic aspect of the cattle that I did not consider. I literally got them out there for the fertility aspect of it. And, I started to realize that once I started managing cattle, that I had a year-round liquid asset. That corn is worthless to literally everyone from April to August. So if a hurricane rolls through, blight, whatever, hail, anything happens, you got an insurance claim. Any time of year you need to get rid of some cattle, put them in the trailer. So that was a huge advantage from a business standpoint, is adding a year-round sellable asset, and then to have an added benefit of nutrient turnover, adding biodiversity, the manure value, the soil structure changes. To me, it was a win-win. Again, none of this is really costing me a ton of money. I farm 3,300 acres right now. We've done that. We've been at that number for 3 years. My fertilizer bill this year was $62,000. And, the first year I farmed, it was just shy of $500,000. So, and the only reason I buy fertilizer is so I can side dress my corn so it looks pretty. Honestly, I mean, the data says don't do it, but I got to do it. I've got to have some fertilizer out there, because if I didn't, I'd be like, man, I should have added 10 units of nitrogen. That would have made 200 bushel corn. I was going through yield data, and when it comes to soil fertility, I've got this software that I've had help compiling years of yield data, soil data, and I noticed a trend yesterday, and I last second put this in there. And on the left, the percentages is the yield, is the productivity of a given acre, of an average acre on my farm. So you take the highest yielding acres on this farm, on all of my acres across all of my years, and the phosphorus value is 156 pounds per acre. Well, you go down to the least productive, it's 195. So phosphorus negatively impacts yield. I am still digesting that right there, but again, I haven't applied any phosphorus. Keeps going up on some acres, but so I don't know how that works. Again, I'm no scientist, but kind of weird to me. And it's also, if you have a low P value, maybe it's not your limiting factor. Maybe it's something like a sulfur. You see a sulfur here is directly related to yield. Potassium is flat. So, what do we really know? You can look at university data, yield data all over the place, soil data everywhere. What do we really know? I came across that yesterday, Ben, before I sent you this, and just thought, I've got to include that because, why buy fertilizer if you don't need it? Again, God didn't make fertilizer, I don't think. That's what Dan said. So, but according to the data, this is the actual relationship between phosphorus and corn yield is, you need less to grow better corn. So, which is wild to me. I guess the next slide is a video. I was harvesting this, so my cover crop blend that I plant in front of in front of those cattle was hairy vetch, crimson clover, and Balanza clover. The reason I plant crimson and Balanza is because we are so wet, and Balanza likes being wet, but I like to have cover everywhere, and obviously for the forage value it's great, but you know, the biomass test coming back like that, you can't, I haven't found a better blend to just broadcast on every acre. That's what that cover crop looks like at harvest. So the vetch, oh, there's oats in there too. There's black oats in there that I've blended. The vetch grows up the oats and actually terminates the oats, but it leaves the vetch in the air so it will dry down and be harvestable. When I bought this blend originally, it was going to cost me about $95 an acre to plant that, which, given the nutrient value, it's a fantastic deal. But then you learn to manage your own seed stock, and then you can really, really turn it into a profitable operation. I don't buy cover crop seed anymore. I buy conventional corn seed and untreated soybean seed. My yields are competitive. As far as a large-scale commodity operation goes, I don't know of a more sustainable way to do it because you can't, there's an inflection point when it comes to investment and yield, especially in corn. And corn's predominantly our main crop out in the Blacklands. How do you increase yield from 227 bushel corn to 250 bushel corn? Well, add nutrition. But why? You know, more output doesn't necessarily mean more dollars. And I learned that, luckily. I had to learn that at a young age. But so I was forced into this, and now just all the cool things that have come out of it. And I have less risk on the farm. I know for a fact, I had a son born last year. I know for a fact that if I keep this thing going like this, that I'll be able to farm with him. And that's all that matters. None of this matters. None of this data matters. None of what we're doing matters unless we can pass it down. Like, that is the main thing that we're doing, at least that I'm doing. That's my opinion. And, you know, I think that's why we all do it. We all take a ton of pride in what we're doing. We all do it for different reasons, but that's my reason. Soil health practices, regenerative farming, cover cropping, livestock, and paying attention to data and not lying to yourself. I used to lie to myself, like, oh, this corn's going to be great. Oh my God, it's 230 bushel corn. It's amazing. And I lost money. So, like, you know, who cares? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're raising 250 bushel corn or 150 bushel corn, you got to keep going. You got to be sustainable, really sustainable, not just keeping soil sustainable, but economically sustainable. All of it plays a role. All of it's important. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I don't normally talk about this stuff, but one of the things that this way of farming has allowed me to do is, again, limit exposure, which is the main thing, because everybody feels interest rates. Interest rates are stupid, and operating notes are stupid, and all this stuff, but they're necessary. But if you can limit the amount that you're working with, obviously that's a good thing. Still maintain productivity, maintain yields, maintain what you're doing for less money. It's fantastic. But another thing this has allowed me to do, and I'm not going to turn this into a campaign spiel, but I'm going to run for Senate up in Elizabeth City. We had a seat open up. And I'm doing it because we don't have, in my opinion, a real ag policy. We have a cheap food policy. And I think it's dangerous. I don't think anybody in row crop farming is having a fantastic time right now. But what are the answers? And there's not much at a state level that anyone can really do. There's something maybe at an educational level, you know, maybe we could look into. But, you know, I really care about where we're headed and what we're doing. And again, I do this for my family, and that's really what I think all of us farm for, is for the people that we do it with. I'm going to wrap up here. How am I doing on time? 3 minutes. I found that my great aunt, I grew up farming with my granddad. His sister sent me an article from Farm Progress that I want to read to wrap up. It says, while going through my mother's tattered, I thought this was fitting, so please, this has nothing to do with sustainability, but I need to read this. It hit me hard. While going through my mother's tattered scrapbook, I unearthed an old clipping titled The Farmer's Motto, and it reads, "We the unwilling, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We've done so much for so long with so little that we're qualified to do anything for nothing." These are timeless words, as sure as finding a few grains of corn, chaff, a cotter pin, or a few bolts in the pocket of a farmer. And that's after he's cleaned them out before he's thrown them in the washing machine. What other profession is presumed to be a free towing service for those who break down along the road? Who else offers amusement rides for friends and neighbors who wait along the edge of the field for a thrilling round in the combine each fall? Who feeds the world while tending to his neighbor? Here's the answer: the one blessed enough and fortunate enough to be called a farmer. Farmers are scientists, purchasing agents, suppliers, feeders, producers, gamblers, experts in weeds and stock, businessmen, and the backbone of communities. Their profession is the favorite of each toddler and preschooler who doesn't learn what the cow says by the time they're 3 years old. And thankfully, they're more accessible than professional athletes. We need heroes who are tough as nails to get the job done, no matter what the trial, flood, drought, or erratic market they may face. We need the tenacious and stubborn who will still be generous with their pocketbook at the 4-H auction, even in the lean years. We need the calloused hands that are tender with a stillborn calf. So here's to you, farmer, and here's to a new year. Another round of planting, and harvesting. Perhaps you're heading into the bell ringer of a year, or maybe this will be the toughest one yet. No matter how the rain falls in the coming months, keep showing us what it looks like to be a person of faith, commitment, stewardship, and self-reliance. When you are fighting traffic to get equipment to the next field, remember that we need you, and not just for the grain offerings. We need what you bring to our towns and communities, churches and schools. We need the hope that you provide little boys and little girls who follow the boot prints you leave in the dirt. Thanks.